News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from the Soonerscoop.com crew. Everybody is here. Everybody's accounted for. We welcome in Josh McCuistion, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przbillo. I'm Carrie Murdoch. George Stoy will be joining us shortly. But we're back to business. The last half of the season. That was kind of the message yesterday, I think, at least, that we talked about a lot. Is it's the back half of the season now, and the Sooners have to deal with expectations that are lofty. And Brent Venables talked a little bit about that yesterday in his press conference. But, this is a team now that knows that they are a national championship contender, a college football playoff contender, and it starts with UCF coming in this weekend. They're getting back John Reese Plumlee, their quarterback, who I thought their backup was pretty difficult matchup. Yeah. I mean, he's a very elusive runner. And let's face it, UCF. They're scoring a ton of points. This is a nice challenge for Oklahoma's defense, but. All that being said, we will get to the football stuff, and I don't know if you guys had anything happen since the off week. The off week was fantastic. It did make it feel like it's been about a month since Oklahoma's played football. It was interesting talking to Danny Stutzman last night. I can actually say that. You can take that thing off if it's blocking you.
That's fine.
So we've got all kinds of little mic things that are hooked up in here to make everybody pretty now. They're getting in the way. But, I thought kind of Danny, to me, that was the most he'd kind of let his hair down all season so far talking to the media. Like, he was talking about his shirt and stuff like that, in how that all came about. And, Dillon Gabriel's launched a new line and stuff. So everybody's – I do like that the guys are kind of getting a chance to take advantage of, the NIL stuff right now with the success coming off of last year.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I think that, obviously a bunch of the accolades and, all the stuff that has come with winning Texas and going to 6-0, that will quickly be eliminated and scrutinized if you go out and you don't play well over the next 6 weeks. So
that'll be why. That's why they won't play well.
It will be, and it'll be number one.
Coming from a man who's wearing a Chicago Bears jersey right now.
Yeah.
Or not jersey, but a hoodie. A quarter pole. No, and Dillon Gabriel, he is a legitimate – I don't think you could say this before USC lost to Notre Dame.
Sure.
But he's a legitimate Heisman candidate now. Legitimate. Like,
second best odds right now.
Michael Penix is the favorite now, and, he deserves to be. Let's face it. He's had a fantastic year, puts up huge numbers. Bo Nix is not out of the conversation. It's kind of like, it's going to be interesting, Josh, watching Quinn Ewers – come out of this Oklahoma game, because he's a guy a lot of people have tried to leap NFL aspirations on him and maybe a first-round draft pick. Like, he's all over the board. And I think he's playing for these last 6 games for a lot of money probably.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. And guys, I had a interesting thing pop up in board chat, and somebody asked me, do you think Dillon Gabriel is better than Quinn Ewers? And that's an interesting conversation to me, because as a player right now, I'd prefer to have Dillon Gabriel. I don't want that to be confused, but I still see the upside in Ewers. Guys, I wonder how much of that is strictly based on one quarter of football the whole world saw, because he was so great in that one quarter against Alabama 15 months ago. And I feel like and I'm not slighting anybody else, because I do it too, but almost everything else I've seen from him since then has been, pretty good.
Josh, he had 19 straight completions against Oklahoma. Outside of that first, I thought when you said one quarter, I thought you were talking about the first quarter at Oklahoma, playing against Oklahoma, where you had 30
the
yards.
negative side of it.
Yeah,
he was 31 to 37 for 346.
He was unbelievable in quarters 2 through 4.
Did you guys think so? I'm not trying to, because I thought he was going to be the dude. Watching him out of high school, I was like, that guy's going to be unbelievable, so good. And you see stretches of it, and I just looking at that Texas game, I thought Sark schemed some stuff up for him really well. Like I thought he had some easy throws.
You're trying to get Arch a job right now, I think. Are you on the take? The Manning family gotten to you.
If there's anybody out there that's on the Manning family payroll, it's me.
So I'm sorry, no, but I will say this. Well, let me ask you this, Josh. Are you surprised that Ewers doesn't have more velocity on his passing? Because he's a touch passer, but I've never really seen him just cut it loose and just been like, oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, you don't see him. I mean, like when he throws. Especially this year, his deep ball's been much better. Had some nice shots against Alabama, but you don't see him drive like those, like a 20-yard route. Like you don't see him throw from hash to the side. I thought in that game, on that last drive, the throw Gabriel made across the field to Farouk on that, I think it was the second first down. That's the best throw I saw all day. I mean, like I just from a pure arm, power, I guess, however you want to say that, the ability to drive the ball, I thought that was the best throw I saw by some distance. Now, Ewers has nice touch. He puts it in good places generally. But yeah, he's not the arm talent that I think we all projected him to be, because when he was in high school, he's still pretty lean now, but he was so lean in high school, you thought, well, he'll grow into it. It'll happen naturally. And it's not that it's a bad part of his game. It's just not the hallmark that you thought it might be.
No, I agree. I mean, and some of the throws in that Texas game, especially like you said, the long when they go opposite hash and throw that screen, like some of those, there were 2 or 3 of those where I was just like, damn, Dillon Gabriel can really move the ball. I mean, he's been impressive to me. Mm-hmm. His velocity has been
he really
better.
has. I mean, again, you mentioned Michael Penix. Everybody's playing for second place next to Michael Penix. That dude has a cannon. I mean, that's in the Josh Allen category.
All right. So coming out of that game, I mean, Dillon Gabriel is now in the Heisman discussion, very much so. I mean, I don't know, guys, talking to him this week, I mean, it just kind of seems to be that same kind of calm, just in his, feeling comfortable in his own skin kind of Dillon that we're starting to learn about.
Yeah, that we start to see coming from the bowl game on, the personalities start really showing out on social media. Now it's bled through to the interviews to where, I mean, I don't think he's going to be fazed by all this media attention. He's going to be the same dude that he's been this entire year. And I don't think it'll impact him one way or another going through the rest of the season.
I wonder, UCF, what that's going to mean for him playing that game. Like, is he going to come out a little bit?
He'll be jazzed up.
Yeah. Maybe throw a little overthrow here, because he does tend to come out early, and whether it's mechanics or whatever, he misses a little bit early in games, especially bigger games.
I think it's such an overplayed storyline this week.
The UCF thing?
The UCF. I mean, it's not like he got kicked out of school or there's some type of revenge tour. I mean, he left on his own accord, right?
Sure, but I just think there was a lot of
spent a lot of time there.
Sure,
I think he.
But
it's
still meaningful.
He has some fondness for that. But I mean,
no, I
think because the coaching
so.
staff changed.
Yeah, it's not a revenge game. It's just a jittery, these are guys I used to be playing with type.
And I think
how many guys are still there that he was playing with?
Well, that's what I thought. And then when Brent said 17, 18 of their guys are seniors.
Yeah,
I don't. Did anyone ask Dillon that Monday? Because I was around Lacey more than I was Dillon.
Not the question of playing against anybody that he was teammates with. I mean, it's definitely a storyline, and we got to talk about it. But I don't think that it's necessarily in his head or anything.
I think
he'd like to beat him. Anybody that competes likes to beat somebody that you were friends with or used to play for.
I think after the first drive of the game, it's over. That's not a storyline now. Now it's just go out and play.
Sure, yeah. But Eddie noticed something the other day. I made that graphic for the thumbnail for the YouTube.
Yeah.
His sleeve is got.
Yeah, he's gotten a bunch of ink since his time in Orlando. He got added on to the left arm.
And I wondered, I end up feeling bad because I don't want to ask people too many stupid questions after practice, but like, because it's like, I don't know, Josh, like you're a tattoo guy. I mean, you obviously have one.
Calf tat.
Like how like when guys get those tribal tattoos, they use that little thing that they beat on it, and it's like a mechanical deal. Like, did he sit in a chair for hours upon hours getting that done?
I'm sure. I think that's how that's done in like the Hawaiian
like
culture
he probably
or whatever.
went back to Hawaii and had it done.
I don't know if he got it in Hawaii, but I'm sure
whatever.
that there's somebody out there that's how I think that's how you have to do it.
I mean, even if you had a regular, I don't know what you call that, pen or whatever, needle, it would it'd take hours to do, and hours to do what he's got.
To get as much ink as he has on his arm, I would imagine that is like multiple sessions.
George said yesterday he wanted to get a tattoo, and I said, no, your mom would kill you. And he's like, you're right.
I think it was what he wanted to get it of was the most interesting.
God, we'll have to. Let's not beat him up until he gets in here.
Poor George.
I promise to take it easy on him. I keep saying that.
It was an interesting take on the Gaza Strip. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, it is weird that we're not. This is the only thing we do now that's not on YouTube, and Eddie is wearing shorter sleeves today. Like the YouTube crowd.
I didn't
happy.
even think about it. I have been told by
showing
George.
Off your arms.
I know guns. I was told by George earlier that we're kind of color coordinated today. I got the yellow hat.
Yellow.
You got the blue. I got the yellow. It's kind of a thing right now.
We called each other before we got here. No, but on top of that, I mean, everybody's going to be watching the Dillon game, and I think everybody wants to see him have success. And
sure,
on the other side of it is,
I will say, like on the Gabriel stuff, it is interesting, like how far this can go. Like I'm to the point right now where,
like Heisman wise,
yeah, like I think that I would be very, very surprised if he didn't get invited to New York City.
Correct.
Is that a fair assessment?
I would say it should be a given at this point.
Which is kind of crazy just in terms of like where this thing is and where people thought Dillon Gabriel was, even going back to I keep harping on it, but going back to the SMU game where people are starting threads on the message board talking about like it's time to move on. It's time to give Jackson Arnold his opportunity.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, how many weeks back do you have to count before you say to yourself, like, I never thought I would be having the conversations I'm having now? Where I agree completely, Eddie. I think him not going to New York would be a mild surprise right now. And guys, after last week in the Notre Dame game, which if for those unofficial 40 listeners that paid attention, I told you that could be a big Notre Dame win. But more importantly, I mean, this feels wide open. For the first time all year, it feels like somebody other than Caleb Williams can really win this thing.
There was something interesting, Bob, yesterday that I don't know if you noticed this, Eddie, but you talked about Dillon Gabriel's senior year and what Josh just talked about with Jackson Arnold. Like, he's got a year left, and would he come back or try and come back? Like, that would be fair to Jackson Arnold. Like, he needs to leave. Yesterday, during his media session, he mentioned that this was his last year, the senior year.
Yeah,
he's never done that before.
I think he has. I think he did at the beginning of the year.
Brent has repeated.
Was it him or
Brent?
Brent
Brent has said it repeatedly.
It's his last time. He's out. He's not Jackson. He's not coming back. But no, I mean, him saying it was his senior year yesterday, I thought was kind of. I mean, okay. Well, he feels like he's in the place where he's not thinking like, oh, if I don't have a great year, I'm going to need to try and come back and up my. I think he knows he's in the perfect position that he wanted to be in, which is his stock is not going to be any higher than it is right now.
No, and he's done well for himself, obviously, playing himself into the Heisman Trophy race. It is interesting, like, once you get past Caleb and Drake May in the NFL draft, like, where does he stack up in terms of, like, his resume, the numbers that he's going to have put up in college ball will be better or comparable to just about anybody. I mean, he's going to finish in the top 10 of college passing all time if he continues on the track that he is.
It'd be interesting. You know who else? I mean, I don't want to keep harping on this, but like, could Quinn Ewers leave knowing that people want to push Arch?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of quarterbacks this year.
I'm just thinking of quarterbacks who might be in that. Like Bo Nix, he'll be drafted before Dillon, won't he?
The Duke
probably
kid.
Yeah, Riley Leonard's in it for sure. I don't
It'll
know.
be interesting to see if he goes, because there's a lot of people that think he's one of those kids that, okay, maybe he could sneak in late first, but if he'll come back and develop like his passing ability, he could be a top 5 kind of pick in a year. He has that kind of potential.
Fact or fiction, Dillon Gabriel will be drafted higher than Spencer Rattler.
I love it, Eddie. That's a good one.
Oh, that's why I asked.
I think
terrific.
I think Spencer would be. He's not having a terrible. He's not the reason South.
He
Carolina
hasn't been terrible.
well.
By the way, we love Shane. I think that's pretty obvious. That is not going very well in Columbia right now. Those people are not happy.
Not when you break your foot after a loss.
Seems like, it's not going well.
Can we talk about the stupidity of the people who are like, oh, he's joking around about it? Guy broke his foot. Like, clearly he takes it pretty seriously. Like, do we really have to have the conversation of like he's not screaming at himself in the Monday press conference about breaking his damn foot?
Well, it's the all-time fan take that we always talked about on the pod a couple years ago. It's people get angry and they want the coach to be just as angry as it's like Mike Gundy at the beginning of the year. They wanted him to come in and burn it down after South Alabama. It's pretty obvious that they have had some come to Jesus meetings in Stillwater, and since the bye week, they're playing pretty well.
And your feet are a very important part of your body. You don't want to bang it on something because you can't see where you're going. And that's why it is the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective look around. You want to be able to see. You get up at night, you don't see so well. You got to put the glasses on, stumble around. You might stub your toe or something. You don't want that.
You don't. And I have a perfect, I think, kind of offering for that. Because if you want to just throw away your contacts, if you just want to throw away your glasses, all you got to do is go to Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City. It's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care, which was life-changing for me. I went through the LASIK procedure, and it was very simple. What they're doing for the Enjoy list, or for the unofficial 40 listener, is they're giving $400 off. They being Enjoy. All you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter N, Joy withme.com, and use the promo code U40 for $400 off. Enjoy Vision. This is where you lace it.
And Josh, I know I don't know if you were going somewhere with Rattler probably, but you had something there before you were wanting to get off your chest.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that with Spencer, we can say like he's not playing bad. He's the only reason South Carolina is even semi-functional right now. They are a bad football team outside of him.
Their defense is terrible. And
I agree. I like the idea that that Shane Beamer, like the narrative is changing on him. Shane Beamer's a good head coach. Like he's made that they have a more talented roster. They're recruiting well. There's going to be years like this at South Carolina. You're just not going to be consistently 9 wins and more. Like that's not the world you live in. And I know people, think it just has to be, I hate to use the expression because it's so common, but linear. Like it's just always going to be on the up. You're going to take a beat sometimes. It's just the way it is, especially when you play in the same state as Clemson, play your, Georgia's in your division. Like you're just facing monsters.
It is interesting because I find myself paying attention to so many SEC teams this year and how they're doing, knowing that Oklahoma's going to be there next year. Like Kentucky, what are you doing? What do you do? Like what's going on with you? I feel bad for Mark Stoops because his team is supposed to be a lot better, but man, after that Georgia game, you're just like, are you guys even any good?
And then Missouri,
yeah.
Missouri's interesting. I think that they have a big game coming up this weekend, but it's obviously, Drink needed a good year, and it seems like he's kind of somewhat having that thing headed in the right direction.
I'll tell you what, I've seen quite a bit of Missouri. God, I didn't realize Luther Burden was that good. He is awesome.
That game I went to at the end of his junior year, when he was still committed to Oklahoma, that's probably the most impressed I've ever been watching a high school wide receiver. He was unbelievably good. And physical, athletic. Because he's a guy, he's not huge. He's probably 6'5", 6'1", but he's so twitchy and explosive, but he's strong too. Like you're not just going to take him down one-on-one. And watching, he was playing out in this little small town in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and is just battering these poor country kids. Like they had no prayer. It was sad.
Yeah, whatever he's getting in NIL, he deserves it because he's carrying that program right now. Okay, so back to OU football.
Let the good times roll between USC. Speaking of the SEC stuff, Texas A&M's just a beautiful disaster right now, and then OU obviously 6-0 right now.
I mean, God, Josh, when offensively it definitely hurts them, but when the hell does this start hurting Texas A&M in their recruiting?
It's coming.
It's at some point you can't NIL your way into success.
No, yeah, and I mean, there's no question that Petrino's helped that offense. They're better. They're still not good. Their offensive line is a problem and has, let's be honest, guys across that offensive line that Oklahoma would love to have on their roster. Many of them were offered. We all know Bryce Foster, and you just look at it and you're like, how is this group not better than this? And they're so bad. They're not recruiting very well on the offensive line. I know talking to some of the A&M guys I know well, you're hearing, guys, it was stuff. Do you remember kind of late in the Stoops era? I would tell you guys, like, I'm talking to people that are saying they haven't talked to a coach in 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm hearing that same stuff. I know what I won't mention him by name, but one of the big offensive linemen in Dallas in 25 that OU's after basically said A&M's had no contact with him. And you're just like, guys, when you have a guy as elite as those three are in Dallas, you have to be all over those guys all the time. And there's a reason OU's in really good shape with a couple of those guys. And, for not to just keep mentioning them as a group, but Ty Haywood, Michael Fasusi, and Lamont Rogers. I mean, you're talking about 3 top 100 offensive linemen, and at least 2 of them have had a hard time maintaining contact with the A&M coaching staff. And that's a sign of problems. That's a sign of you don't have a clear plan.
If they do make a move, they have to. I mean, if you're going to pay Jimbo $67.5 million, you have to have somebody in mind. This morning we tried to go through like a list of literally 25 names. I have no idea which direction they would go.
It's got to be Dion, right?
Has Dion done enough for the A&M folks to think that he should be worth it? I know
Absolutely
the recruiting
not,
side.
But I mean,
But
I just
matter.
love the disaster.
Perception.
Yeah, but
I would love it. No doubt.
A&M handed out a national championship trophy with no year on it last time. I don't think it really matters.
Doesn't
what
matter.
you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like I wouldn't even hate that hire. Like, guys, that would be a problem for Oklahoma,
Sure.
Texas, anybody that recruits the state of Texas. He would. I mean, but at the same time, look at what. I mean, it's not like Jimbo hasn't been recruiting well. They've recruited really, really well. But guys, I mean, the and Kerry, I know obviously you always had a good relationship with Summy, but those numbers, he can't get away from them. Like, Summy had won more and done more at this point than Jimbo had. And that's insane because they ran him out on a rail.
what would a guy like Lance Leipold do at Texas A&M?
I think that is about as like big of a just a culture
Gets
difference
suffocated by
because
the-
he's
yeah.
Like he
Green
would just
Bay
get out-recruited by everybody.
Well, I don't know about out-recruited as much as it just doesn't seem like he fits there. And I know that like maybe nowadays you can't even do that, but it just seems like Michigan State makes so much sense to him because he's the Wisconsin guy.
I don't think there is a fit for A&M because I don't think A&M even knows who
No,
they
that's
are.
true.
They think that they know what a football coach is, but they can't ever hire one.
Is it a cop-out to say that like Jeff Traylor would be a great hire for Texas A&M? I think he'd do a great job too. It's a little bit Joey McGuire, and I know that they're not playing well in Lubbock right now, but his fit with the Texas high school football coaches, all of that would be very interesting.
It would be. And Jeff's actually got some experience as a head coach. I mean, he's done really well at UTSA. He's taken that program to, one of the better group of 5 programs in the country right now. I think that's one that's really interesting. Guys, one that I would be incredibly interested by, it would never happen, but I think the guy's really freaking good is Jed Fish at Arizona. I think that would be
Arizona's
his
respectable.
NFL background. Yeah, and Arizona's playing. Arizona in a very real world could be 6-1 right now and just outside the top 10. I mean, because they played Washington tough. They had USC on the ropes.
Yep.
I mean,
the only really bad loss they have is Mississippi State. Like, that's a bad loss.
Yeah, and that was before this Fafita kid. I don't know if you guys have watched him. He's like 5'8". He's nothing, but God, he can sling it, man.
He's really good. The other two ideas, well, I guess it's one. It's a combo idea. Jeff Levy, and let him name his father-in-law the offense coordinator. I'm dead serious. Or you just hire Art Briles.
If there's a school that would just give the middle finger to the world,
exactly.
A&M could do it. They're insulated enough that they just be like, we don't care what you think about us. We want to win football games. And, somebody asked me to, in the chat again this week. Chat's been on fire. We've had some good questions the last few weeks, but they asked me, and it basically came down to who is a better head football coach, Art Briles or Lincoln Riley? Art Briles. Like, I don't even hesitate. Like, Art Briles is a better head football coach. You could never hire. I mean, I get that there's a lot of mitigating stuff, but Art Briles took. I think most people that are younger can't even understand where Baylor was. Like, they think this is trash Baylor. This is nothing Baylor. This is a decent season 20 years ago. And now they're like, oh, Dave Aranda's got to get run out of town. He's terrible. No, this is an elevation because Art Briles gave them ground to stand on.
I mean, I just want to move quickly because I want to sit on A&M. I know people aren't tuning in just to hear us talk about A&M, even though we're fascinated by it, and everybody pretty much is. But I'm going to OU's leaving. It doesn't really matter, but has everybody been kind of surprised at Dave Aranda this year at Baylor?
I mean, Baylor and Tech, they are not good football teams.
I love Grimes.
Well, remember we said Baylor, Tech, too. Kansas State. OU doesn't have to play them. What a gift. I don't know.
That's three.
None of those three teams
their schedule is tougher with them off of it.
I haven't seen a whole lot of Baylor, but I go back to that Texas State game, and the speed difference for Texas State offensively against Baylor was shocking. Absolutely shocking.
I think OU would love a little get back against Baylor and Tech, but Kansas State, that young quarterback guy, is going to be a problem.
Okay, so
that dude is good.
I was out of the loop on that. Did Will Howard get hurt or benched? Or
I think
what?
He's basically been benched.
He just got benched.
I think they're going for a little bit more mobility, and Avery Johnson, I mean, he can run the ball, he can throw the ball. He's, as Josh said, he's going to be really, really good. I think they might as well just pull it right now.
I saw a Kansas State fan had put his highlights from that game together with a Creed song, and it was impressive.
From the Tech game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that kid,
it was an ass whooping.
He pulls it down and he goes.
He's a Kansas kid, right, Josh?
Yeah, he's a local kid.
And Colin Klein's their OC, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, because they thought they'd get Dylan Edwards and Johnson, and they were just going to build something special until Dion plucked Dylan there at the last second.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about that zone read, like doing that with Johnson and Edwards together, that would have been a nightmare especially behind that experienced K-State offensive line. That would have been a real problem.
All right, let's get back to a little bit of OU stuff. And before we do that, I want to remind you guys about Prime Shrimp, one of our great sponsors here on the pod, PRIME shrimp.com. Go check out their website. All kinds of flavors, restaurant quality meals. It's no muss, no fuss. Just boil some water and throw in the shrimp. Within 10 minutes, you got a restaurant quality meal. I know Josh and I have both had, I think I gave some to George. Maybe no, I meant to give some to George. Anyway, we need to get some sent to him. But go to primeshrimp.com. Use a promo code U40. You'll get 25% off any order of $50 or more. So that basically means you can pick 5 different flavors, whether you like, your Louisiana style. You can get your shrimp boil. You can get the French Quarter Alfredo. That's really good. If you want to go more, more clean, the garlic herb butter shrimp or the lemon and cracked pepper shrimp. Both of those good choices. As well, but I know the New Orleans style barbecue is the McCuistion house favorite. Are the girls into shrimp yet?
They do. They only like fried though. So we haven't gone down the prime shrimp
stuff.
road with the girls.
So you taking a lot of Red Lobster trips then?
No, not down here. There is fried shrimp, delicious fried shrimp everywhere. But yeah, that's the only thing we can get them to do.
Because sponsor.
I mean, well, yeah. Then they can have all the Cheddar Bay biscuits they can get their hands on. So
you have Razzoos down there? Or is that mainly a Dallas thing?
It's more Dallas, but I want to say there is one somewhere here in Houston. I don't remember where.
I think aren't they opening one in Oklahoma City? A Razzoos? Eddie, you're BLC. You don't know this?
Do they have a Razzoos in Oklahoma City?
Are they opening one?
I believe that they are opening one. Okay. Yes, I think it's in Chisholm.
Oh yeah,
Creek,
Chisholm
maybe.
Creek over there. Yeah,
kind of over by where the what's the chef name that's opening a restaurant up there? I don't know.
Not Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
By the way, his son's like huge on TikTok. He doesn't use his same name. I don't know why that is.
Doing what?
Just being a kid that cooks. I mean, he's like
at least he's
20-ish.
doing something. You know, I feel like there's a lot of people on the TikTok right now that I hand up. I'm getting old. I don't get it. I don't get it. I saw PMT was talking about like one of the trends right now on TikTok is walking around without your phone.
Yeah,
like, that's
I
a
saw
trend.
That, yeah. Well, yeah, just no technology whatsoever and go for a walk.
Dumbfounded.
And he said there's 100% chance that girl's boyfriend is cheating on her.
Oh, the girl that's like claiming that she started it?
Uh-huh.
Like she should go.
Like it was the boyfriend's idea. Hey, honey, don't take your phone while you go. Just walk for a couple of hours.
And now she's taking like clout credit for creating the non-technology walk. I mean,
creating the 1990s.
Yeah, I'm getting closer and closer to being pro something.
It's like claiming you brought records back or something.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable.
Of course, we all know I brought records back.
There you go.
Okay.
See, here we go.
No, I don't want to get into it. I can't even play record. I for all you Pearl Jam fans out there, I hijacked off of Ryan Aber's Pearl Jam membership to get their Yield album that they re-released, and I can't play it. It's stupid. Anyway, stupid story too.
Wait, you bought a record that you can't play?
I mean, eventually I can play it. I just don't have my record player set up.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like
I never finished.
I thought you meant like it's a like a baseball card that you don't take out of the package or something, or like like how people will buy the something and they're like, or like a toy figure.
Yeah,
see,
and you don't take it out of the package.
Dude, I think about this all the time. Like if I could go back in time, like I would buy 2 G.I. Joes every time and just leave one in the box.
Well, it's
and
like
I could retire. Like well, not G.I. Joes, but you know what I mean.
The first iPhone, I think, is worth like, if it's unopened, unpackaged, it's worth like millions and millions of dollars.
Seriously, millions?
I think so, yeah. Or maybe not the iPhone. Maybe it's like the Nokia, like the first actual like phone that a lot of my generation
had
got.
a keyboard,
like with the snake and stuff.
Like that happened a lot with like people in the military when they would go and buy Rolex watches, and they were too nice. Like there was a guy on that Antiques Roadshow. He was like a Vietnam guy. He went and bought a Rolex Daytona, the Paul Newman. They call it the Paul Newman. It sold for like $17 million. Paul Newman's own sold for like $17 million at auction. So he went to the Antiques Roadshow and he put it in the safe deposit box and he just left it there. Never wore it. Had all the stickers on it and everything, and it was like $750,000 or something like that.
That's insane.
So yeah, I mean, watches would definitely be what I would go back and buy and retire on for sure, no doubt.
How did he get it? He bought it.
What do they call it? The PX or whatever. Like at the base where you buy all stuff. Like they would sell Rolex watches at the bases.
Sounds like a lie. I think he stole it off a ladyboy hooker in Thailand.
He was a very nice gentleman. He fell over when they told him how much. I think I might be over. It might have been $250,000. Anyway,
it's a lot of cash.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about this game and what we've talked about this week with players and coaches. I mean, I'll say this. I think the highlight of the week, Bob, you were over there, but Jacob Lacey's got to be the highlight of the week.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Fine. 4 weeks in a row, requested him. Finally got him Monday night. And just hearing his blood clot story and because
and he said like he had a knot in his leg and that was the blood clot, like it was so bad it was like a bump on his leg that he could feel.
Yes, and because of an internship with Chick-fil-A, he kept flying around, and so that kept making it worse and worse until the Notre Dame
air pressure
trip,
and all that.
You got it. The Notre Dame trip was the one that set it all off, and I even asked him, how was that Cincinnati flight? It's like, oh, I was scared. I was so scared, but I was able to make it just fine. And his attitude was just very matter of fact in terms, like, it wasn't sentimental or like, it was just, this is what I went through. I'm over it. I'm good. I'm good to go. I don't have any second doubts. I know this is what I want to do, but that 2-minute answer that he gave to my question was just phenomenal. As it kept going, you're like, holy cow, that's what this was really all about.
And you can go on Sooner Scoop editorial on YouTube and check out that interview because you want to watch that one. But you also want to watch Caleb Shaffer from last night as well, Eddie. I mean,
he was great.
The whole thing about
the transfers,
the mobs,
they're unbelievable.
And
the
reading that he's doing now.
Yeah.
Just trying to.
He said growing up, he wanted to be an author, and like that perked my ears up. I was like, you never hear that, and especially from the 6'4", 345-pound offensive lineman.
I don't think I've ever heard someone say that.
It's crazy.
Football player.
It really is nuts. The type of guys that they went out and got, and obviously a ton of them were making impacts on the team. But it's going to be really interesting moving forward. Like he's going to probably start at right guard on Saturday, and for him to be thrown into the mix like he was at the Cotton Bowl, I don't know, maybe it tells you a little bit of something about him. I thought like Brent's thing about his impression of Bill saying that he pisses him off at practice, like I can totally see that though.
Great.
I can totally see that.
Bill was like, damn it, why are you saying that?
Josh, going back to Texas, anything from Caleb stand out in the fourth quarter?
I mean, I think it's a deal where a kid got put in a tough spot. He got lined up against Sweat a couple of times, and Sweat got him. But, I mean, again, OU's not about to face anybody like that for the next few weeks. So he's got a little time to learn, get his feet under him. I say learn like he's a freshman, like he's Caden Green. But, I mean, guys, just to come in cold off the bench like that with on 2 huge drives for Oklahoma, like that's a ton to ask of him. And I again, he wasn't bad. He got beat by a guy that was, it's beat up a lot of good players through the course of this year. So I think he can be completely serviceable. I'm having to let go of my Jake Taylor torch. I'm not okay about that. I'm still, I'm still talking with my my counselor about it. I'm going to get through it though.
Is it too much to like put 2 and 2 together though and say like, what he told us about mentality and just staying ready? And Bob, you've wrote about this with guys that knew that they were basically signing up for roles within a team that they weren't going to be starting after starting 35 games a year ago at Miami, Ohio, or over the last 3 years. I do think that maybe it represents the mentality that this team has, and maybe you shouldn't be as concerned about them just not showing up over one of these last 6 games. I think that there is a good leadership group and a good kind of mentality within the locker room right now that obviously reflects the head coach that, we'll see. We'll see how this whole thing turns out, but I would be rather surprised if they went out and laid an egg, so to speak. I'm picking OU to win the national championship. No, not yet.
And I mean, the offensive line, look, UCF does not have a good defense. This should be the game.
They are awful.
This should be the game where OU can get its running game going. And you guys brought it up. One of the more interesting, interactions between media and Brent yesterday was the Javonte Barnes question, which just left everyone kind of scratching their head about, like, what does that really mean?
I think he's redshirting. I think he's going to redshirt. I really do. I thought maybe they thought that toe surgery wasn't going to be that big of a deal, and it's turned out it is, and they're just going to shut him down.
Maybe he can get with Aaron Rodgers and get some high.
Because he played 3 games, so he can still play one more. Or you say, all right, we'll start back over 2024. We'll let you really get right and you can show us what you can do again.
I will say this: we went out to practice last night. We did see McKade Mattauer leaving the field. He was fully dressed out, but as I scanned, I was like, you got a veteran here. He was wearing tennis shoes. Everybody else was wearing cleats. So I don't know how that works. Like, it makes me feel like Brent sent him in to dress out before we got there, just so, it made it look like he was almost ready to play or something.
After you said that last night, I was telling my dad about that. I was like, I don't know. Maybe they did. Like, maybe that's why it takes so long after practice that they're like, they've caught
All
on
the
that
injured
we're like,
people have
we're
to, like-
seeing who's out there with Justin Harrington or whoever. And maybe they're like just trying to F with us a little bit. I bet he comes back.
For Bedlam?
Yes. 2 weeks. I bet obviously he's going to sit this week, but I'm still just completely kind of shocked that he didn't break his ankle. Like the way that they acted with the air cast and all that kind of stuff. The way just the way that the players acted. I guess obviously when your teammate's getting carted off the field, you really don't have any idea, but that was weird.
Well,
I feel like there's been a lot of that this year. Like,
Yes.
Marvin Harrison Jr. had one in the the Notre Dame game where he got rolled real bad and looked bad. I feel like I've seen 2 or 3 of those, and largely with like Riley Leonard. I thought Riley Leonard's season was over. I thought he'd broken his leg against the Clemson, not Clemson. Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
well, and,
It's Notre Dame just taking fools out.
and not to mention Brock Bowers, who he went through the drastic steps of having that surgery done just for a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, the tightrope surgery that Tua had.
And doesn't that only really save you like a week or 2 of recovery?
I think that the recovery process, isn't it said to be more clear as opposed to like with the high ankle, you just
You can
never know if
re-injure
it's,
it.
and it's never really truly healthy, quote unquote.
It just shows you Georgia just takes football seriously more than everybody else.
They are starting to play pretty well, Georgia. I know they kind of sleptwalked through the first quarter last week against Vanderbilt, but I think that thing's coming together. Carson Beck looks pretty damn good.
Did you see the SEC shorts where the SEC goes to the hospital and they have to tell him he's having a down year? You can check that one out. It's pretty good. I won't go into too much detail, but OU and Texas make an appearance in it as well. It's pretty funny. Offensive line, that's a concern. Does it gel? It's not a good defense. Get the running game going. But, guys, this defense is going to be tested against UCF. And, with Reese Plumlee coming back, I've watched him over the years. He's a good quarterback, but I've never really thought, like, he was just, like, going to be a first-round draft pick type guy. And then, like we said, the guy that's been playing might be a little bit – I know Plumlee's fast, but, the other guy might be a little bit more elusive. What is his name, the guy that's been playing? What a crack research staff we have.
Timmy's son.
There, yeah.
Timmy's. What was it?
That guy.
Damn, what's that kid's name? Timmy McClain.
Okay,
that's his name.
McClain, yeah. But talking to Danny Stutzman this week. Like all this stuff that's been said, the goal line stand's been talked about for 2 weeks now. Like, does this defense come out focused and start getting tackles for losses? Are they going to be getting interceptions?
I think it's the confidence is as high as it possibly could be.
But does it become overconfidence at some point? They've all been patted on the back.
You're going to have to
2 straight weeks
wade
now.
through that a little bit, I think. But I think that, like, if this is the base floor for how good they can be, I think they're going to get better as the season moves on.
But these 2 weeks will be tough because they're playing teams coming off bye weeks. Central Florida just had theirs. Kansas is having theirs now. So any sort of wrinkles, and you heard Brent talk about deception with both of those teams. We had a Art of War reference yesterday. So
there was an Aristotle reference on his
and the Bible. He's referenced the Bible, Aristotle, and Art of War this week.
I saw Toby Rowland made note of that. That was
so
pretty good.
You're going to see some stuff that UCF and KU have not put on tape the entire season, and they'll have it ready just for the Sooners.
If you can play with the physicality that they played with, especially along the defensive line from here on out, I think that you're going to like where they're at. You know, that I did not realize. I realized OU was pretty high up there in tackles for loss. But if you look at like the game notes, there's 25 different guys that have played defense this year that have recorded a tackle for loss. Seems like a very high number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like there's 16 guys. There's 51 guys listed on OU's defensive statistics page. 25 of them have recorded at least a half of a tackle for loss.
I mean, and a lot of those are just on screen passes, where they're just getting through the blocker and just hitting the guy in the back. You know,
well, I mean, Danny Stutzman, I think, leads the country in tackles for loss.
Yeah, but that's why if Gentry's healthy, he makes a difference.
Sure,
tackling.
That was another thing that Brent did say on Tuesday is the cornerback depth.
Yeah,
Kenai Walker, Josiah Wagner, Makari Vickers, they're all back in the fold, as well as Gentry.
And that'll be
which is just huge. I mean, it was so run down by the end of that Texas game. I mean, they were hanging on for dear life.
Key playing corner.
Key Lawrence was playing corner, and I don't know if Texas targeted him once. It's crazy.
They did, and they to be fair, I don't know if they targeted him, but they threw to his side and he made a play, and he got up and realized, okay, I kind of got beat on that, but. You'd think when he makes that tackle, they're like, wait, 12's over there wide. Like, what? Okay, we're going at that all day. And they just didn't do it.
Well, and it's interesting that Reggie Pearsons is a captain this week. I mean, it says something, I think, about probably the way he played against Texas and the way he's practiced, going into this game. And I mean, that's why people say, and that's why Brent overused the competitive depth term so much in the preseason, is he and Key Lawrence are really going at each other, making each other better, I think.
And that was the goal. And my biggest concern is what happens if one starts playing so well and one drops off. Like I get disgruntled, or how does that affect the chemistry, cohesion? Instead, they have been seriously just building off of each other. Where 1 week it feels like this guy shows up, then the other guy gets motivated and plays his best game. We've seen him with Key. He played really well during the first part of the season. And after Pearson had that rough game against Tulsa, he came back and played his best game of the year, Cyclone. So that's exactly what they were hoping. And as long as you're 6-0, you can keep on doing it. Everyone's okay with just playing their part.
I got a text the other day from the good folks at Dead Soxy, and they said, hey, we screwed up. We didn't send you out your big shipment of socks, and I want you to know we're gonna get those to you right away. And so maybe we could, if we're gonna just have a bunch of socks laying around, maybe we can do some NIL deals between like Key Lawrence and Reggie Pearson's. Like whoever starts gets socks that week. I don't know. Motivational NIL. Could we be the first to pull that off?
Eddie brought it up a couple weeks ago that he was going to go week to week on who he wanted starter at safety to be. So Eddie could just deem the starter, and they're the sock winner.
I'm going with Buki Radley-Hiles this week. I'd like to see a return. It is kind of crazy, and I think that we talked about the Dillon Gabriel stuff and offensively what he's been able to do. George, welcome in.
What up?
Tweeted out the picture
today
of the stat book. What?
He's very Cologne today.
Is that why you asked me to take you by the Kappa house later? You tweeted out the stat graphic, though, of just like the turnaround that OU's made defensively. Uh-huh. Have we grasped like how much better this thing is? I know that it's easy to sit here and say that they're better, but when you look at like specifically stuff like the third down percentage going from 40.9% last year, which is just absolutely insane, to 28.9% this year. Like the red zone has been much, much better. I don't think they've allowed a touchdown in the red zone. It's crazy to me that the turnaround, it's a little bit like the 17, 18, 19 years when we came in here and we would talk offensively like this isn't normal. They're putting up historically great numbers. It's not to that point, but just in terms of people understanding how good they've been, how big of a task this was to turn this thing around. Now you're talking about an OU defense that I think a lot of people would be very comfortable with throwing out there if you had to get a stop to end a game.
I think the thing that's impressive is we all knew, or at least we all thought we knew, that they were going to make a jump and we wrote about it and we talked about it a lot. Like, what statistically could they be? I don't think any of us saw them making this kind of a jump when you talk about some of the numbers that you're referencing. But, like, I still think that there's a lot left to be proven this year. I don't think they've necessarily, other than Texas and maybe SMU, they haven't necessarily played like, and I don't want to like downplay. They haven't been
dominant.
Right. Because like where they were last year, they didn't play great offenses last year either, and they were giving up, a ton of yards,
Sure.
or they weren't able to stop the run. They couldn't set the edge. They weren't rushing the passer.
At the end of the game.
So I'm not taking away from that.
Yeah.
But I'm still not there to be like, well, this is a championship level defense.
Oh, but I'm talking like, you go back into August and we were talking get them out of the triple digits. Yeah, a top 60 defense. That's going to be pretty good.
You didn't want to be here after Eddie got done archiving all of last season's video footage. He just came out like
so
it was
bad.
It's like that commercial where the guy comes out like after winter and he's like, everything was so white, and they're like, you need a hamburger. It was like he came out of the workstation room and he was just like, I forgot it was this
I just
bad.
couldn't believe like some of the stuff like that we were seeing. I mean, it was worse than some of those 19-18 teams that were just abysmal.
Yeah, and I think last year too, a large part of it was, at least watching on TV, it seemed like they didn't even know where they were supposed to be half the time. Whereas this year, it feels like rarely are they like having just a total coverage bust, or a guy rushes too far in their lane, or whatever it is. And I think it's also they're just more talented. I mean, I've used this analogy several times, but when you replace some of the guys like a Justin Broyles with a Key Lawrence or a Peyton Bowen or a Deshaun White with a Dasan McCullough, like you're gonna be better.
Oh,
because those players are just better players.
Sure.
And then you add on top of a guy like Danny Stutzman actually living up to the potential that we thought he could. Ethan Downs exceeding expectations. Like
Big time.
I mean, it's all those things combined, and then you just the confidence. I'm sure they're last year. Like, you had so many guys on that defense, too, that, like, even a Deshaun White, like, who's played a lot of football, he's seen the bottom of the barrel. Like, his confidence had to have been shot by the end of the year of, like, man, we're just going to let him score every time. Whereas this year, I think guys, whether it's new guys or older guys that have reset their mind, they're just playing really, really confident.
They are. And I thought that was interesting. Brent was asked about Ethan Downs, and he was like, I still think he can get better. And everybody's just like, well, that's good enough, Brent. He was terrible last year. Like, he's actually looks like a star at times this year. But Brent, that's the thing. Like, you can sit there and say, why can't Alex Grinch's teams tackle? And they're like, we work on tackling. Like, I don't know why this keeps happening. Brent demands that his teams tackle. And I mean, like, the times we did go out there and watch him practice, like, I felt bad for some of those cornerbacks because whatever that thing they were using that had the big ring on it that rolls around.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it looked like it just hurt to tackle. And guys were just killing that thing.
Go ahead.
But no, I mean, to me, it's the demands that Brent puts on his players is the reason why they're doing so well.
And all this success, I think, has only led to these guys. If you thought they were bought in during the spring, some of the stuff that they've been able to get through and the different ways that they've won, Brent brought that up on Tuesday, I think has kind of been overlooked a little bit, combined with the Texas stuff. These guys would literally run through a wall for him right now. And I think with a belief that like everything's going to be okay on the other side.
And they've got Danny Stutzman as the guy that's saying this is how we have to do it, and they're all listening to him and they like him. But demanding is a big part of everything. I mean, I demanded that George buy a nice watch, and he did, and now he looks like a more mature adult.
And I demand that I get in the pod intro.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll work on that. I was going to do that last week, but didn't happen. So
I'm kidding. I don't care, but I do get a lot of mentions about it. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
I need to fix it. But I
also, Mom, I'm not getting a tattoo. Don't listen to Carrie.
It's just empty conference room talk is all it is. But no, I do demand that you guys up your game in the sock game as well by going to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY. Use a promo code SCOOP. You'll get 25% off your entire order, even sale items. So great customer service, great website experience. Sooner Scoop store in comparison is just in shambles compared to how good Dead Soxy's website and customer support is. So go check them out. They've got the new colorways, the new crimson colorways, the athletic socks that get your no-shows, of course, are a must. But if you haven't before, go get some Dead Soxy socks. You'll see how much they can change the way you just feel every day wearing them. So deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Use that promo code SCOOP to get 25% off your entire order. And I know I was talking to the boys the other night. We're going to try and come up with another promotion now that everything's going so well as the season goes along. So anyway, this game, I think 11 a.m. It just seems like the 11 a.m.s are everywhere. We kind of like it because we get done.
I love it. I hate it for the fans. I hate it for people of Norman that kind of count
I did
on
think about
game
Lindsay
days.
Street. Like 11 a.m.
Yeah.
How's it going to be this week? It's probably not going to be great, but I'm not blaming anybody because it's not.
It sucks. I do think that the point spread stuff is going to be interesting this week. OU 6-0 against the spread so far this year. I know that there's a lot of national sharps that are already got Central Florida at 19.5, which I still think that you could go play a really complete game, win by 17, kind of like you saw in the SMU game, even though you wouldn't say that was necessarily complete, and you could still not cover and play well, I guess is what I'm saying.
OU is the only team. OU and Penn State are the only teams that are undefeated in against the spread.
7-0, both of them, right?
6-0.
Penn State's got a big one this week as well.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that's big noon.
Eddie, with what you're talking about, like a 17-point game, I'm trying to, 27-10, okay, maybe I can get there.
27-10, you walk out of there kind of unimpressed, though. I'm going to be honest. Not knowing how that goes down. Mm-hmm. But I do think both teams are going
to think of a way where that comes out all right.
Both teams are going to want to be able to run the ball. I do think that Central Florida, the number 3 rushing attack in the country, they have a bunch of seniors. I don't know. I think it's super, super impressive if OU can come out of the bye week and almost just pick up where they left off and not have any hiccups, especially early in the game. I bet that first half spread is probably 8 or 9 or I don't gamble, so I don't really pay attention to this kind of stuff. But I don't know what's so funny. It's illegal to do so at Oklahoma. But if
absolutely
you can go out and play a complete game, which they keep saying is going to come at some point, I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, this feels. The team should be as fresh as it's been in a month and a half. You would think everything is there, and kind of a chance to make a statement and say, okay, because they know what everybody's talking about. The same things we're talking about is this team mature enough to handle the success and the fun they've got to have over the last 10 days? Are they ready to kind of go and okay, focus is back in. We're right where we need to be. Or are they going to fart around? And they know that's out there. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. I think it's going to be a really good litmus test for what you're going to see beyond, because UCF has some talent. They've got some guys that can play. There is enough there to give Oklahoma some trouble if they're not focused.
It's a little bit of a cop-out, and I guess we don't know because he hasn't really had a team in this type of environment quite yet, and we'll see how it all goes. But because of Brent Venables, I believe that it's been pounded into their head time and time again. And I know that Josh, that there have been some come to Jesus meetings over the last 13 days or however many days it's been since the Cotton Bowl, that it's been pretty impressed upon the team that, shit can hit the fan rather quickly in college football. And you can go from the talk of the, country or whatever to kind of back out to the outhouse. And Brent talked about it a little bit yesterday, or maybe it was on his coach's show during that 10-minute monologue that he opened with that we were watching on Tuesday night. The embarrassment and disappointment from a year ago, I think, weighs on a lot of people within the program still to this day. Just to put that out there and kind of what was like a rebirth of the program, the disappointment and just flat out how embarrassing they were at times.
By the way, a little bit of breaking news here. AP has released their midseason All-American team. Mm-hmm. Michael Penix, the starting quarterback. The second team was Jaden Daniels. There is a Sooner that has made their team. It was Danny Stutzman's second team defense at linebacker.
Who's first team linebacker?
First team linebacker, let's see, Peyton Wilson from North Carolina State, Jason Henderson from Old Dominion, the Stat Stuffers, and Edgerrin Cooper, who's really good at Texas A&M.
I will say Peyton Wilson's had a really good year for NC State. He will be in the Butkus. He won the month of September Butkus Award or whatever. Like they do like a Player of the Month or whatever. He will be, I would bet, a semifinalist, if not a finalist, for the Butkus Award.
Stutzman is joined on the second team linebacker list by Jay Higgins from Iowa and Power Eccles from North Carolina.
But if Oklahoma keeps winning, Danny's going to be a Butkus finalist. I don't know if he'll win, but he will be a finalist if they keep winning. Pretty sure. He's playing too good not to be.
Yeah, and if the defense continues to lead
Correct.
in all the categories
Correct.
that they're leading in right now.
Guys, does that reek a little bit do we really feel the AP voters have checked out a lot of Jason Henderson tape at Old Dominion?
No.
Or did they look at they looked at the stats and were like, oh, he's leading the country in tackles. That's the guy.
They're also I think they have
know,
a losing record. I think.
Yeah. I know like people read, because I've talked about it, the top 3 unassisted tackle or assisted tackle,
All
3
Old
of the
Dominion
top
guys.
8, I think it is, are Old Dominion guys.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, that's not coincidence. Like, somebody's padding those numbers pretty well. Because I think when I did the math on it and looked at their total plays, it was something like half of their total plays, at least one of those 3 guys was in on the play. Like, that doesn't seem mathematically possible to me. But, I guess in some of those cases, all 3 of them were in on those tackles. But, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you could watch what Stutzman's done, what Oklahoma's done, the resurgence of that defense. Just watch the SMU game. I don't think if you've watched that game, you can understand how much trouble Danny Stutzman kept him out of in that game with the fumble Ruski and some of the other big plays.
Yeah,
the one against Cincinnati where they almost got him and he tracks back and makes the play on I think it was a wide receiver throw. It sounds homerish, I know it, but I mean, I can hear the Peyton Wilson argument. I can hear a few other guys are as good, but 3 guys have been better. I can't get there.
And he's going to be big these next 3 weeks because you talk about 3 football teams that are running the football really well right now. UCF, obviously, what is the stat? 3rd in the country. Kansas is able to run the football and do some different things. And then OSU, Ollie Gordon is really coming on for them. So this is going to be, some big weeks for Danny to probably rack up some stats, but also just play really well.
Second factor fiction of the day. One of my buddies was brought this up to me the other day, and this might even be a question that you can't answer right now because you don't know what they're going to do and would probably be better asked during the summer. The 2 biggest recruits for Oklahoma this year going into the SEC, Danny Stutzman, DeJohn Terry, to get them back for 2024. Is that a crazy take?
I don't know.
I know it's midway through the season. We have no idea.
I would be more. I think DeJohn Terry would be a bigger loss because I think Kip Lewis can help OU cushion that blow if Danny leaves.
Yeah, it definitely feel better about the linebacker position.
Go ahead, Josh.
It's a question of, do you think Tyler Guyton's even a realistic possibility? If you think there's any chance he comes back, he's your number 1 priority.
That's fair. We can revisit during the summer. I just thought it was an interesting. It was a bye-week conversation
guys,
for sure.
Do we see a world where Terry leaves? I don't know that I believe that. I just don't know that. I mean, especially if he had a good NIL package and was being relatively well taken care of.
You just never know with these guys. Like, certain people get in their ear about it, and Terry's been he's at his 3rd different school in his 5th season. It's just like you just never know. Danny strikes me as a guy that, like, in previous years under different regimes, he's leaving. Like, he's going to leave. Whereas now Danny strikes me as a guy that would love to come back and play one more year for Brent and maybe become that All-American type linebacker if he's not already. Like, he could come back and be, like, sure, he could go this year and probably be, I don't know, a day 2 pick. Like, he's definitely not a first-round pick, but he could come back and be a for sure second-rounder, maybe sneak into the first round if you have an All-American Butkus type year. And also, he just, again, strikes me as a guy that's like, he loves Oklahoma. He's probably making a shitload of money in NIL now.
He is.
And then all of a sudden you come back and you're beloved by that. Like, he just seems like somebody that would love to play for OU one more year as they go into the SEC. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, I definitely think that would all fit. And in terms of like leaving a legacy at Oklahoma and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you could really kind of cement yourself.
Yeah.
And if he wins the Butkus this year, it's probably not a good thing for him coming back.
Right, and I don't think he's going to win it.
Agreed.
By the way, I don't think he's going to win, but I think he'll be a finalist.
Oh, I think that just is kind of a commentary almost on just how far this thing has been accelerated when you're talking about Danny winning the Butkus or Dillon winning being invited to New York City for the Heisman.
Danny wasn't even all Big 12 last year.
No.
He led the conference in tackles.
The other one that, I mean, and we're only at the midway point. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of the year, and these guys have big decisions to make and whatever. But the other one that I would say is big to try and convince to come back and who's kind of skyrocketing up draft boards is Billy Bowman. I think Billy Bowman's starting to get some draft talk.
Really?
Yeah. And
I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that.
He's having a good year, and he's just been like, he's finally healthy and playing really well. Like, you would want, if you could have him back for a fourth year in this system, like, I think he could have a massive senior season.
This is the first.
I'm with George. He's a guy that feels like, I with his injury history and all that their scouts are going to peruse through with that, there's part of me that just thinks there's no way he's any earlier than like a fourth rounder. And if he were to come back, I could absolutely see him being a guy that got into the second round, like because he's not huge, he's not physically overwhelming, but he's such a good football player. I've said it over and over again. I remember, and I want to give him credit, it was Bud Elliott on Cover 3 was talking to the Kent State staff, and they thought he was the best safety they saw all last year. They played Georgia and Washington. I mean, like that's some serious praise for him and the player he is capable of being.
I can't even. It was interesting seeing that list because it made me wonder. Like, that's the first list I've seen, and really the first time I thought about postseason honors. Like, as a team, we've talked about Danny before, we talked about Dillon, but like, I wonder how many guys are going to get screwed from Oklahoma and Texas on the Big 12 list this year.
I don't know. I mean,
they're going to be the finalists and have eight players combined.
They should. I mean, OU should have a lot of guys on there.
Well, should is not going to apply, I don't think.
I know, but I mean, I still think they will have. I mean, they'll have more than what they had on the preseason. I mean, let's not forget they only had Ethan Downs was the only. And remember too, we probably should eat some crow. It might have been. I think we talked about, like, of all the guys, Ethan Downs was the guy, and now you're looking, you're like, yeah, he's probably a first team All Big 12 guy right now.
100%. I guess we should add too that I think it was announced yesterday, but Brent Venables was named a watch list candidate for the Bear Bryant Award, which, obviously, what we should do? We should start a campaign. Ted Roof, Frank Broyles Award.
I do think I think Jeff Lebby might be on that list. I don't think he'll win, and he may not even be a finalist, but he'll probably be a semifinalist.
If you have a quarterback in New York City, you should be something involved.
Should be in the
that.
talk, yeah.
All right. Look, we're over an hour into the show. We haven't even touched recruiting, and there's a lot of stuff going on there right now. I know up in Junction City, Kansas, people, determining when you listen to this pod, you may, already know the information, but Josh, give us an update on what's happening in recruiting and where you think Oklahoma stands in all this stuff.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Michael Boganowski, the big kind of, he's listed as a linebacker on 3. I know Oklahoma kind of sees him as a safety cheetah type of guy, and I mean, you go look at his tape, he's every bit of the listed 6'2", 195. He is a big kid, very physical. Seems an ideal fit for what Brent and those guys like to do at that cheetah position. He's got some coverage ability, plays deep for Junction City, and at the same time is just, like I said, a guy that can come up and play run and be violent around the line of scrimmage. With Boganowski, this felt like a dogfight between Kansas State and Oklahoma for months and months and months. And I know Florida State had kind of been rumored. He'd taken several trips to Kansas. I think Lance Leipold and those guys really impressed him. But really, at the end of the day, it came down to OU and Kansas State. And I've got a prediction in for Oklahoma. I didn't even realize, I had forgotten that I put one in on May 1st when we first came over to On3. And I was like, well, okay, I need to go put one in. And it just reads as upping of my confidence. But I originally had made a pick back in May. And I like where Oklahoma is for him. I think they've done a good job really just kind of being consistent. They didn't kind of let the ups and the downs go. There's a lot of, we talked about this last week, there's a lot of Peyton Bowen comparison here to where Oklahoma was recruiting not just him, but having to convince his family that Oklahoma was the right choice for him and that they could do a lot. And I just think there is it's tough to imagine it not being Oklahoma. But again, K-State, there's a lot of connection there. You don't want to rule anything out. But you look at right now on 3, I think the RPM, the recruiting prediction machine, has Oklahoma at about 80% likelihood based on several predictions, kind of his trips, the way there's some different data that goes into that. But I think that's a pretty valid way to score that, about 85% in likelihood for Oklahoma.
Michael Boganowski seems like a name that you would have seen at Duke in like the late 90s. That was there for like 7 years and averaged 18 and 13 a game. And obviously a big white guy.
Oh, like the, kind of big small forward, undersized power forward.
Probably
really
an overachiever,
well.
but was also a McDonald's All-American. Like that kind of fit for Duke.
Like he's the guy that the Cameron Crazies gets nuts the one time a year when he dunks. Like,
yes.
That kind of deal.
Yes.
Like, yeah, absolutely. But definitely played with Trajan Langdon. Definitely played with Langdon.
100%. And I probably cheered for him at the time. To go into Kansas, though, I mean, and get the number 1 recruit in the state. Brent talked so much about locking down the backyard, and they have in the state of Oklahoma. Locking down the region. Is this another one of those commitments too that maybe? And I don't know if he's talked about this. If you're not making the move to the SEC, is that sell harder?
I don't think there's any question. Talking to several people, and I know, we can talk a little bit about the commitment that happened last week since we recorded the Daniel Akinkunmi, and I know that was big for him. Was talking about playing in the SEC because he's a guy that, he wants to be great. He thinks, okay, I got to go measure myself against the best, and we've watched OU lose players year over year. And I know, Kerry, a while back when you were in Baltimore, that was a big question you asked a lot of those guys. Like, what would it mean, or, how big of an impact is it for Oklahoma to be in the Big 12 versus the SEC? And almost all those guys were like, yeah, it matters. It's different. And so when you talk to these guys, I don't think there's any way to deny that it's a big role in their thought process. The chance to play in what we can all accept is the best conference in college football, and just having to test yourself week in and week out. But again, I do, Eddie. I think it's a really good point. You look at, since Brent's return, their presence in Kansas, Missouri, like they are recruiting those areas like they used to. And you go back and look, guys. I mean, guys like Geno Grissom. I mean, you go way, Jordan Phillips. Like, you go way back. Oklahoma's had some really good players. Brody Eldridge. I mean, we can just go down the list for all those guys from that kind of, I don't even know what you'd call that, lower Midwest, I don't know what you even call the area, but there is a lot of kind of underappreciated talent there. And now you've got guys like PJ Adebawore and Caden Green, and there's reason to think that this is going to continue to be fertile ground for Oklahoma.
Josh, let's talk about Bill Bedenbaugh. Seems like there's a lot of momentum for him on the trail. You mentioned Daniel. They get that. I'm not even going to say his last name. Not even going to try. But they get Akinkunmi.
Ooh, look at Kerry. Nicely done.
Anyways, he commits last week. Seems like there's a lot of momentum with Grant Bricks, maybe, and then also Eddie Pierre-Louis. I mean, does it feel like that the offensive line class is maybe starting to come together, or at least trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, for those that haven't seen it, I put in a prediction for Grant Bricks on Saturday morning, based on a couple of different conversations I've had. Early on, it was because this is, to me and to some of the sources I talked to at Oklahoma, has felt like an Oklahoma-Nebraska battle for a little while now. I know Kansas State's kind of remained quietly confident. I certainly don't rule them out of this. But I just got the impression both kind of Nebraska and Oklahoma seemed to think the other one was the school they were really working against. And I think it may be as simple as, Nebraska's closest to home and Oklahoma's the best program of the three. And that may be all that entails. But with Bricks, I like the momentum Oklahoma has right now. I think from what I've gathered, I think we could finally have some resolution on this in the next week or two. It could be, somebody could be listening to this on Thursday or Friday and they could know what we don't know right now. Or it could be, 10 days from now. But I don't think we're going to have to wait a lot longer to know what Grant Bricks is going to do. And I think Oklahoma just stayed the course. Bill Bedenbaugh has done a good job not getting too up or too down in this recruitment. There were times where it looked like it was going to be Nebraska almost any day at that point, and then they just kind of kept fighting and stayed in it. And you have to, and I haven't talked to Grant specifically, but talking to people around him and some of the various sources, I don't think it's a small thing that Oklahoma's 6-0, having this great season, and Kansas State scuffled a little bit. Nebraska's looks very shaky. Those things you never know. You never know when that's going to matter. And if Grant Bricks is in the 2023 class, he might already be committed to Nebraska with the way Oklahoma played last year. So having this big successful run and all this momentum and national notoriety and getting to watch that OU Texas game, it's hard to think those things don't matter or weren't relative in this. So we'll have to see, but then you add in Eddie Pierre-Louis, who is expected in this weekend. I do think a decision could happen as soon as this weekend with him. Again, same deal, fighting a much closer program in UCF. That's been a big part of the battle. Oregon's kind of come on here lately, but I don't know. I just kind of get the impression he's an SEC guy. He likes the idea of playing in the SEC, where his brother Richard Goriage did for Florida as well. So there is there's a lot to buy into there. And again, it all forgets Jordan Seaton, one of the top offensive linemen in the country at IMG Academy, teammate of Jaden Jackson and David Stone. That is, I know a couple of weeks ago everybody wrote him off when he changed his visit plans. That was at Oklahoma's behest, and I said so at the time. Like, they wanted to push that back to a later date to get a little closer to his timeline for a decision, and now it's looking pretty smart because I think Alabama is the one everybody's kind of watching with him, but it's not. He doesn't seem to have a definite decision made or anything like that, and Oklahoma's going to get a chance to kind of shoot their shot.
Should we talk about Reggie Pearson's little brother?
Reggie Powers.
Reggie Powers. Reggie Powers.
I was like, I don't know anything about Reggie Pearson's brother. I'm about to get put in a really bad spot here.
Yeah, this is 2 days in a row. I'm an idiot who asked Dillon Gabriel about the Bill Bedenbaugh T-shirt he was releasing.
My mind was racing as I heard that. I was what did we miss?
I was like, and the way you reacted, I was like, oh, I just screwed something up, didn't I? And then I realized, oh, it's Jeff Lebby. Like, I'm doing too many things.
Oh, Carrie.
I know, I embarrassed you, George. I'm sorry. I'm turning into Dean Blevins.
But your point, though,
slowly.
What does I guess Boganowski mean for Reggie Powers? Is that still? And I can't remember, Josh. I feel like we talked the last time about Reggie Powers maybe visiting this weekend.
And he is going to come in this weekend. This was initially planned. I've got it in Woke. This was initially planned to be his official visit, but because of the 11 a.m. kick, everything had to get moved around. So they're still going to come in, but it's going to be unofficially. He and his father, they have pushed back the official visit, but it is on the books, which, again, talking to Oklahoma people, there's still let's see what happens with Boganowski. I think they've got a pretty good feeling of which way that's one's going to go, and yet they're still setting up visits with Reggie Powers. My feeling is they really want to take Reggie Powers. They really want to find a way to make that work, and for that to be to be a guy that can work for them, because they're very different players. Like I said, Boganowski's a big physical, kind of linebacker safety tweener, and Powers is more of a Billy Bowman, a Peyton Bowen. He's going to play out in space. He's going to be in coverage. Like, he's very natural. You can line him up on the slot, and he can cover. Like, there's a lot you like there, but they're just very different. So I think it's going to be a numbers game a little bit, where they're going to have to make some decisions on who they want, who they think is going to leave in the portal, who they think they might be able to get through the portal, what kind of numbers those are going to look like. So, again, it's the never-ending role of, basically a general manager that should be, that Oklahoma or anybody should have, because you're playing a numbers game all the time. But I think they like Reggie Powers a lot. I think Oklahoma probably leads for him at the moment. But it's just, like I said, I think it may come down to what they think they can do with their numbers.
It's going to be – go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you mentioned the numbers. You're looking at the commit list right now. They're at 25. So you add – let's just say they add some of these guys. You're talking about a class of like 29, and that's if they add Bricks, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Boganowski, Reggie Powers. I mean, how big is this class going to be, I guess?
And it's going to be interesting too when you think about, like, what if, I'm just throwing a name out there, what if a David Hicks or somebody entered the transfer portal, and how do you navigate that now, knowing you can get guys that turn over a roster rather quickly? I mean, we're seeing it right now with the 15 guys that they brought in last semester.
Yeah, because guys, I think Carrie asked me earlier, like, when the shit was going to start hitting the fan in College Station. It's happening. Like, you're hearing rumors and talk that stuff like David Hicks is going to be possible again. So, and again, I'm not saying I know that. I'm just saying there's enough out there that you can't write that off. And it is. I mean, I think that is, when you look at all that Oklahoma's going to lose at certain positions. I mean, guys, you're talking about three. I'm trying to do the numbers here real quickly. 7, 8. I mean, there's 9 guys along the line of scrimmage that absolutely do not have more eligibility left for Oklahoma. From McKade to Shaffer to Rouse, on the defensive line, Jonah, not Jacob Lacey, Jordan Kelly, Isaiah Coe, Bothroyd. I mean, there's guys they just can't bring back. And if you could find a few bodies and hit it right like they did with Bothroyd and Rouse and some of those guys that have come in and made an early impact, that how do you not take those guys? So I think that's probably what the power situation falls into a little bit, because yeah, you'd love to have the guy, but safeties you can find. Safety and your safety room's in pretty good shape right now. You feel pretty good about where you are, because guys, I mean, Key Lawrence could return. I mean, that is on the table for him. And Billy Bowman, like we talked about earlier, you got to see what his NFL draft stock is going to look like, what he's thinking. And I know people don't always think about it, but I don't think you're far off from where you're starting to have those conversations with these guys, like trying to get a feel for what they're going to do. And, obviously no decisions are made at this point, but you're just trying to get an idea of, like, okay, if you get a second-round grade, what are you thinking? And you're going to kind of know. So I do. I think it's going to be a really large class. I think the timing of the NCAA changing their rules to where you can just kind of go as crazy as you want to go, I think it couldn't have come at a better time for OU, and gives them an even quicker chance to really continue flipping that roster over in the way they want.
Yeah, and I wonder, though, if there's also maybe some guys in the portal that fans would be like, God, we got to go get that guy. But the way Brent's, we talk about it all the time, the character thing that he's, the locker room, the culture, like there might be guys that are, maybe a former 5-star that are out there where they just say, this kid just doesn't fit here with us.
Yeah. There's no question. I mean, that's guys. And the interesting thing, and I'll let you go, George. Eddie. George said something earlier talking about Stutzman maybe being a guy that would return. Well, I think you're going to see more of that, kind of like you did maybe late in the Stoops era with the NIL. Guys don't have to try to go run to get whatever payday they can get while they can get it. They can get paid in college. And at the same time, there's no question, guys. It's just it's a culture that's different. And these guys, I think you're going to see a few more guys that are kind of fringy third rounders, stay around, hang around, and come back and play.
Wasn't that what Clemson was so good about too? During kind of their run was
Dabo's
you just figured somebody would go to the NFL and then they come back for another run. What'd you say about Dabo?
I said he's down bad right now.
Dabo's saying they should just lose games to get people off the bandwagon. if it's not like one of the greatest trolls of all time, he has lost his mind. I think they're gonna beat. Who do they play here in 2 weeks?
Miami.
Is it Miami? Come on.
They play Miami this week.
Who do they play next week?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I think Clemson's going to beat North Carolina. Hot take.
I mean, they went to the wire with FSU. And really, if Klubnik hadn't fumbled, I mean, they'd probably win that game.
He's kind of playing it up like they're a downtrodden program right now, which they kind of are.
One quick last question I have for you guys, if we're wrapping this thing up, which I think we might be.
Pro-Israel.
No, I was going to say, I had a question this week that I thought was interesting because it seems like there are quite a few teams that could maybe run the table this year.
Is Mariana Doe available?
If you had an undefeated team from all...
They definitely hired her.
If you had an undefeated team from all 5 Power 5 conferences, who do you think gets left out? Like, let's say Oklahoma runs the table, Washington, Georgia, Florida State, all run the table.
It's the nightmare scenario that we always talk about this time of the year. And lo and behold, it never happens.
I know it's not.
It would be funny.
I don't
if
think it'll happen, but like, I don't know. I mean, it's all those 5 teams that I mentioned. I think have a very good chance of running the table.
So it's OU, Washington, Florida State, and Georgia. Well, they're not going to leave
Michigan.
Oh, and Michigan.
Oh, Michigan.
They're not going to leave Georgia out. They're not leaving Michigan out. I think it would probably come down to.
I don't think they're leaving Washington out if they're undefeated.
Pac-12
is.
It'd be Florida State. Or
I think it might be Oklahoma because if you look at it right now, they would only have beaten one ranked team all year, and I guess they'd beat two. It'd be both, but it'd be the same team twice.
But would those 2 wins be better than anything Florida State has done?
I don't know. It would depend on how much they value their win over, Clemson, Duke. LSU, like they could have like 3 or 4 ranked wins versus Oklahoma.
What has
1 or 2? The Big 12 The Big 12 is not doing Oklahoma any favors in this conversation.
100%. George and I talked about this, I think, on Monday. Josh, did you sit there and like Washington and Oregon was a great game? Do you think that they're great teams? Washington's great offensively.
No, but
I'm not going to say they're not, and they wouldn't keep out a Heisman Trophy winner.
I'm picky. I mean, guys, we know. Like, I'm picky about that stuff. Like, to me, I haven't seen a great team this year.
That's fair.
I think Georgia and Michigan could maybe get there. I think they have that on the plate, but I don't think guys, there are 10, 12 teams that on any given day I think could really play with each other at the top.
It would be a perfect year for the 12-team playoff. I mean, just because there are so many of those teams.
I think Michigan will beat Georgia.
Well,
I think Michigan is really, really, really good, but they haven't done anything yet. They haven't beat anybody. I know that like nobody's had a 1st and goal against them. That's incredible. I don't care who you're playing.
That is crazy. I will say it does help everybody if Brock Bowers is not 100% because I do think Georgia is going to struggle a little. And Beck is starting to play
6 weeks, I think.
I thought it was 4, but I don't know. But I
think it's 4 to 6.
4 to 6 is what I saw.
6.
Yeah.
But Beck is starting to play better for them. But they're about to. I think their schedule is about to get pretty tough, if I remember correctly. Like they've got like Florida, Tennessee, and
surprisingly, they played Missouri here in 2 weeks. That's kind of a marquee game now in the SEC East.
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting question because
no, it is, and
I think
it never happens, but it's worth talking about. That 12-team playoff that Andy put out, like that On 3's doing, it would be unbelievable. I mean, your top 4 teams with the byes are Georgia, Penn State, OU, Washington. And everything's going to work itself out when talking about Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State because they're all in the same division. Like, you can't all stand on this hill forever. You can't not win your division and get into the playoff. Conference. Either way. Ohio State, Texas would be your 8-9 game. Oregon, Alabama, 7-10. Florida State, North Carolina, 6-11. And Michigan and Air Force would be 5-12. Air Force is fucking good.
Yeah.
And I stand with the troops.
They've got that.
or cadets.
Air Force has a little quarterback that they've got to get healthy. That'll be interesting to see how they. Sounds like he's not quite right. So that he's an unusual guy to see at a place like an academy.
You know who's also a wagon? Like James Madison. James Madison is a wagon. Now they can't play postseason though or something because of the stupid NCAA rule or whatever. But they're good.
That's the dumbest shit rule I've like. Hey, come up and play this harder level of competition, but we can't reward you if you do well. Like, what? What sense does that make?
Yeah, it's stupid.
All right, I think we're done. That was a nice long show, almost 2 hours. So it went fast.
Check out the game preview.
No, I'm sorry, hour and a half. Game preview is up on YouTube. We'll have the game
it's not
day.
Up on,
well, not yet. We haven't recorded it yet.
No, the practice report is up now. The game day preview
is it game day?
Game day preview.
Okay.
And we'll be talking with
Matt Murschel. I think that's how you say his last name. Murschel.
From the Orlando
Sentinel.
All right, Josh, appreciate it. We will be back again for the Eskridge Lexus postgame. We're back on postgame pod coming up as well. Full coverage of UCF as well. Game day preview show to come. Also, Scoop be coming up this weekend as well, and we'll keep you updated on what's happening Thursday night with Boganowski up in Junction City. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you back here again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.